Do you still feel shame around your past, especially your teenage years? Do you feel embarrassed and regretful for some of the decisions you made? That's the thing. Sometimes we can carry that energy from our teens. You know, that icky energy looking back and like, how did I do that? Why did I do that? But it's actually time to forgive ourselves because we only made those decisions based on the knowledge we had. And we were going through a very big transition from childhood into adulthood. So it's time to be more compassionate and forgive your inner teen. My name is Angela Cleary. I'm a feminine empowerment coach. I specialise in healing after narcissistic abuse, and I also offer twin flame and spiritual guidance. This is it. I don't know what it is. Like with inner child wounds, we're never really conscious, not until we start to do the inner healing. You know, so anything that happened in our childhood isn't at the front of our minds. But whatever it is about our teenage years, it always creeps back up. When we're having a low day, it creeps back up. When we have beer fear, when I used to drink alcohol, whatever it was, I'd have that psychological hangover and I'd be sitting there not just regretful from the night before, but regretful for every decision I made as a teenager. And I'm not the first person who said that. Like, why are we sitting there ashamed of things that we made, decisions we made as children? This is the thing. Like, we were only kids. And for a long time, for me anyway, I held a lot of inner resentment towards myself. You know, this real embarrassed, icky feeling looking back at my teenage years, and that has an impact on how we view ourselves today. And that's the thing, you know, how I don't know what it is. My behavior as a teen just carried on with me, and now it took me a long time. I started inner teen work a long time ago, but like it's actually coming back up for me again lately. But it took me a long time to forgive my teenage self, and that's the thing. When we're doing inner child healing, I spoke about this before, your inner child is in there, still inside you, wounded. But guess what? Your inner teen is in there as well. And that holds a lot of, like, there's the shame around your childhood anyway, but there's bigger shame around your teenage years. And, you know, for me especially if you had a traumatic childhood, well, it doesn't really matter. We all have an inner child wound anyway. But the teenage years are probably the hardest years we ever have to go through. Because as a child, you're putting on a persona, you're fitting into the world, you're codependent on your parents, you're literally listening to all the lies that they tell you, you know, about the world, about everything, about God, you know what I mean? Like literally religion, oh my God, I'll get into that in a second. But like, you know, you get into your teenage years, you actually start to think for yourself a little bit. On top of the fact that you're transitioning from childhood into womanhood or manhood, that shit is scary. Puberty is scary. And back then, our parents did not know how to talk about sex. They did not know. We learned from school, which did not know how to talk about it either, books or our peers. And it was really, really an embarrassing, scary transition for us. And for me personally, I was transitioning into womanhood with two men in my house, my dad and my brother. So it was very difficult for me to embrace my femininity or understand like it was okay to be different, you know, because as far as I was concerned, I was a girl among boys and I was like, why am I not like them? Why do I have to be different? And that was very scary for me as well. So like, and if we're carrying wounding from our childhood as well, on top of maybe, you know, a turbulent household that you're in, that can be even scarier because you're going to base your decisions on your wounding, which I did. And I rebelled as a teenager, but I also rebelled because you get to the stage and you're like, my parents have been lying to me about everything. And especially for me, it was religion. You know, I grew up fearing God, literally afraid to say boo to a monkey because, oh my God, if I said anything, I'm going to burn in hell or burn on the spot. That's how I was influenced by religion growing up. And I remember I made a pledge when I was 12 not to drink alcohol. My dad was an alcoholic, so therefore I was like, I'm not going to drink alcohol until I'm 18. And I fucking meant it. And I accidentally drank alcohol at 14. And guess what? I spent days, if not weeks afterwards, literally waiting for myself to go up in flames. That's what I was taught about religion. And guess what? I didn't go up in flames. So therefore I was like, more lies. That's when I became an atheist. I'm not an atheist now. I'm a spiritual person. You know, but like what I'm trying to say is that your teenage years, you're literally transitioning into open-mindedness and using your mind for yourself. And that's scary in itself. You're starting to really realize that people that you've trusted have lied to you. But also, it's that transition. And every decision we make as a teenager is based on our level of knowledge. and our level of wounding. So it's like literally, effectively, it's like, I was thinking about it, it's like the blind leading the blind, because your peers are teaching you and you're teaching your peers, and you just have no idea, because as I said, back then, sex education was shite, like, you know what I mean? So we were literally educating each other as we went along. It was fucking crazy. And like, we spent our adulthood then looking back with regret and shame, angry with ourselves for making these decisions. You were a child transitioning into adulthood with no fucking idea what was going on. It really is. And like, you know, it really is a crazy era of our lives. It's a crazy time in our lives. And yet we don't understand its impact on our adulthood. And I was guided to do more inner teen work lately. Actually, I've been guided for the last month or two, but I wasn't making any connection to it. I go through these phases of watching movies. So I could be watching a couple of months of just action movies, or I could do the next few months could be just sci-fi movies. Next few months I go through my rom-com binge or my cartoon binge, and it's just, you know, I go through these little sections of different genres. And lately it's been teen movies, teen rom-coms. And like, you know, a few years ago, if you put a teen rom-com in front of me, I would have said, no, I'm not watching that shit. And you know, even better, like, actually the last series I watched, it was movie series as well. So I was watching 3 teen rom-coms in one day of the same series. Last weekend, over the weekend, I watched 4 a series of 4. It was Zombies, the Disney teenage rom-com. Not only was it a teenage movie, it was a musical. These are the kind of movies I would never have watched. But I was like, you know, I kept seeing this pattern. I was like, why am I being guided to watch teenage movies right now? It's because my inner teen was looking for a little bit more attention, looking to see, looking for more healing. And, I'd done some healing before, so I wasn't, when I initially started to see the pattern, I was like, no, it's fine, I just nurture her, she'll be grand. But I actually had to look within and ask her, why was it coming up now? So I had to look back on my teenage years and remember how I felt and compare it to what I'm feeling now, or see if there was a reflection. Was there some wounding coming up? Was there still wounding still there? And for me personally, I looked back, right, as a teenager, as a rebellious teenager, I was also so shy. Because of my childhood, I was really fucking shy. But yet around my friends, I was my wild, rebellious self, my true self, which is my quirky self, my eccentric self. And, so I had it's like I had a split personality, but I didn't. I was literally, and that's the thing, your persona as a child is what you locked yourself into. This wounding made you go into this box, this shyness or whatever. That's for me personally anyway. And my true self started to come out when I started to see the world with my own eyes, in a sense. So that was my rebellious side. So I was trying, it's like, I don't know, it's like the Hulk or something. I don't know, that's a weird transition. But it's like I was breaking out of this false skin. It was like bursting open, in a sense. And looking back, my energy was, I want to be seen, I want attention, I want love. I was seeking outside myself for validation because I didn't get it as a child. But there was the other side of me that was wounded from my childhood, going, I don't want to be seen. I'm going to stay in the corner here, and no one can hurt me. No one can reject me. No one will ever be able to abandon or reject me again if I stay in my little box. So this was the two sides I was going through. And that's very conflicting, especially when you're going through all the stuff as a teenager anyway. So I was literally into, I call it the stretchy energy. We're going through this every time we shift a timeline, or every time we transition or transform into our new selves. We can go into this cocoon mode and we transform into our new selves. So every time we're up leveling, we are literally being stretched between our old self and our new self. That comfort zone, that old reality, that familiarity into the unfamiliar or the unknown. So this is what happens as a teenager, but you're not fucking aware of it. So you're literally being really stretched and you just don't know where to go. You don't know what to do. And you're going through these conflicting feelings of, I want to be seen, I want to be loved, I want to be my authentic, confident self. But yet you're like, I'm so scared, hide. And that I was like, that's such a reflection of what I'm going through now. Because after my relapse and I went back into my shell again and I lost all sense of self, I lost who I was. It was a long time for me to come back and build my confidence again. And as I'm getting out and doing my content and with my coaching and all that, I am gaining more and more confidence, and I love being on camera again. I love it. And that's not me like looking for attention. That's me excited to show my message to the world, you know, and I'm excited to be seen. I like it. You know what I mean? It's fun. But then there's that other part that still comes back in and says, yeah, but why don't you just stay here? It's fine. You know, you can't get hurt. No one can reject you. There's no one going to write bad comments and, you know, bring negative energy to you if you stay in your little box. So that's what it was. When I was doing the inner teen work over the weekend, I was just like, that's what it is. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. But yeah, I'm kind of going, yeah, but if I stay here, I can't be hurt and I can't be rejected. Now, I think a lot of us hold that wound. And a lot of us feel that way. A lot of us want to be ourselves, which is our true, authentic, crazy selves. And I call it crazy because anything that's not conforming is crazy to those people. You know what I mean? That do conform. And like, you know, this is, you know, this is where we find our true selves. Like, who are we? And that's a great way to look back on your teenage years, because who we really are starts to show its face in our teenage years. And I love that. Actually, I mentioned this before. You know, your true self will never change, but yet you evolve and you become a better version of your true self. And we went on this retreat when we were in school, and the group had to, this is a group of our classmates, had to everyone had to write something about the other person. And the list was, like, I still have that list. And it literally says, Angela's great to talk to. I can really confide in her. I can trust her. So that's my coaching abilities. And other ones was like, oh, she's mad or she's crazy. That's my eccentric side. And I'm like, I have not changed a bit from my teenage years. That was my real self. You know, if you turned around and if you told somebody these days that I was a shy person, they would have been like, no, she's not. She's not shy. Do you know what I mean? And so, like, effectively, I shed the shyness because the shyness wasn't me. But I still kept the traits that are me, the compassionate, the empathic, the crazy. Do you know what I mean? So they're who I actually am. So you can actually really discover who you are by having a quick look back at your teenage years and seeing what kind of energy or feelings you had back then. And you can actually reflect it back to now and say, am I going through this stuff now? Am I being held back from being my true self because of this inner teen wounding? That's it, you know, and that's what I was reflecting on. Like, I think, like, with inner child healing, it is ongoing for me. It's consistent. It's, you know, it's because it's a big wound. It was a big wound. With my inner teen, I did some work and I left it. But now I'm starting to, it's resurfacing again because it's showing me that there's still a reflection here. There's still some of that. And that's it. It's the stretchy energy of, you know, becoming your true self. So this is a great way to, as I said, just identify who you are right now. But it's a great way to release that shame and inner resentment. Because oftentimes we can resent ourselves. Like, I remember everything about my teenagehood was literally, I was in such regret. I was so angry with myself. I was like, how did I make those decisions? I made those decisions based on the knowledge I had, but based on my wounding. You know, my childhood, being abandoned by my mother, it's a big one. Like, you know, growing up in a house with two men, toxic masculine energy. I was not only trying to transition into womanhood, I was actually trying to transition into manhood because I was the only girl in the house, and I was like, I don't want to be a woman because I won't be like you guys. And there's this conflicting energy. So, you know, that for me was a very hard transition for me in general. But then, you know, that's why the rebellion came out of that and the whole lies around religion and stuff. But, like, you know, I look back now and I'm like, whoa, what I did was mild compared to what I could have done. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I would have deserved to go way off the rails, you know, because my childhood was bad enough for me to do that. So I actually think I'm honouring my inner teen now. I'm respecting my inner teen now for not fucking dying in a ditch drinking, do you know what I mean? I still did all those things, but at the end of the day, I I survived my teenage years. I survived that transition. And I'm like, I don't care what I did. It was mild compared to what I could have done. And, you know, now I'm just like, just fuck it. Like, I had a really, really, we call it an interesting teenage years. And now I'm able to laugh at it. I still cringe a little bit, but I'm able to laugh at it. So when we get to that stage of inner forgiveness, it can be really transformative and bring us into a whole different aspect or view of ourselves, you know, and it can help us to be more confident now. Because if we're still allowing energy from our past to make us feel guilt or shame, that does keep us stuck. And, you know, as I said, that energy for me was the shyness coming back in, that fear of being seen, as well as wanting to be seen. It's the conflicting energy. If you're in a conflicting energy, it's very hard to actually move forward, because you're literally, it's like slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up. It's like literally you're like push and pull energy. It's like back and forth all the time. You know what I mean? So like it's a really, you know, you could be moving forward in some ways. Like you go 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward. You're still moving forward, but you could be doing 2 steps forward, 2 steps forward, 2 steps forward if you can heal this inner teen stuff and your inner child stuff. So this is a great time to look within there, ask yourself if there's any shame or regret coming up from your teenage years, and address that. Forgive your inner teen, forgive your true self, and let go of that stuff. Because as I said, you're not only doing it based on your level of wounding, you're doing it based on your level of, I don't know what the fuck is going on here. I'm going through puberty and I have no idea how to be an adult. You know, and it's like you're so confused and you have no, for us going back anyway, we had no sex education or proper puberty education, not really. It was all literally, like, as I said, the blind leading the blind, us peers teaching each other stuff. And we just had no idea. You know what I mean? So it's look back and forgive. Because my God, like we had a hard go of it, in fairness. So this is it. Look back, nurture your inner teen, you know, and watch those teenage movies. It's great fun. And the musical ones. Oh my God, they're great fun. And that's like your inner child and your inner teen getting fun at the same time. Yeah, they're just it's a really good way to nurture yourself through it. Write a letter to your inner teen is actually a good one. You know, tell them you forgive them, tell them you love them, tell them that, you know, what they did was okay. You know, you didn't have a clue, you're fine. Do you know, so it's time for that inner forgiveness, and don't let that shame from the past hold you back. So thank you so much for listening today, and I really hope this resonates. If it does, please like and share, and please subscribe to my channel so I can reach as many people as possible. And if you would like help on your journey, please book me for a free discovery call today, and I would love nothing more than to help you on your path. Also, I'd like to mention I'm hosting my first free webinar on the 8th of August, 6 p.m. Ireland, UK time. I will be speaking on healing after narcissistic abuse, inner child healing, inner teen work, and shadow work. I hope to see you there. If you need some information, just comment below, or there is a post in my community posts.